Let's make a 3 difficulty attack tribal deck. About a week ago, I started a contest where I'm giving away a Chrome Rare to one of my supporters. And it's going to go to whoever makes the best 3 difficulty attack tribal deck or the best 4-check attack tribal deck. Any standard character, all you have to do is sign up on my Buy Me a Coffee page as a supporter, submit a list using the Google form in the description of this video. I already have about 8 to 9 submissions, I believe, and some of these are very, very good and very unique spins on these tribal attack packages. But what would I submit to my own contest? Well, this is the result of that. I spent a couple hours yesterday building and switching up this Rodan list. I actually believe in it so much now, though, that I want to do true competitive testing with it. So, you know, not to brag, but I do think the judge is going to like this list. You know, I think this would be a winner. I think I have a pretty good understanding of what the judge's tastes and preferences are for deck building. So let me take you through this list. Why Rodan? Why 3-diff tribal for him? And then let's talk about some of the interactions, because I think there's actually a lot of really cool, sneaky lines that this deck has access to. So first off, why are we picking Rodan for the best character to run a 3 difficulty attack tribal package? Well, the idea kind of sparked when I thought about George's list. George won our first webcam circuit event back in late June, and he did it using Rodan and a 4-diff tribal deck. And a lot of these attacks, like Viral Cosmos, it's literally just a 4-diff, 4/4. After you play this attack, both players draw 1 card. Nobody plays this attack at a competitive level, like seriously, except George does. And George ended up winning. So he just really showed that Rodan solves the speed of attacks, and Firepower and Knott's Flask solve the damage. So you don't need to worry about the stats on your attacks. And that's going to be a big deal when it comes to 3 difficulty tribal, is obviously these attacks are not going to be statted well. Most of them are going to be 3/3s. And so we need our character and to be doing some consistent heavy lifting and some other cards. So Firepower basically is an extension of Rodan, always adding the damage. And then if we can just get some flasks out, then we have the damage there. So this George's list was kind of the idea for why Rodan would be the correct character here. Is Rodan is going to be adding 3 or 4 speed constantly, or at least 2. And then combined Firepower will give us damage. And then we can build in Knott's Flask. My second thought process on here is that with Rodan, I wanted to also be playing Barrier Shields and Cape of No Returns because Smiling Titan exists now. And I wanted to play this new action Strategic Maneuver. Rodan gets the support from Attack on Titan of all air attuned cards. So we're playing this on Void, but we can still play air attuned cards. And Strategic Maneuver says you can choose an asset in your discard pile and add it to your hand. Or if you want to build that asset, you can discard a card and just free build it. I really like the idea of always getting to pick up a Cape of No Return for defense as soon as we, this is like copies 4 and 5 of Cape of No Return, but it's also copies 5 and 6 of Knott's Flask. On a kill turn, we can kind of surprise our rival. We can go 3 attacks, and then we can check this on a 3, remove it, and just free build a Flask in. So they might not have thought that we were going to be able to present lethal, but then we can kind of surprise attack them and present lethal on our final attack with a Flask. I love or we can just, switch this to a Flask and then build it. Flask is basically a spam foundation. It's 1 difficulty. So Rodan gets really, really scary when he gets 2 to 3 Flasks out in the stage. Okay, so now we're playing 17 assets or actions. That means that we're going to have to make this list pretty big. So for simplicity purposes, I have this deck at 100 cards. Now, that might seem too much. Typically, when you see a 100 card deck, you're just thinking that's a pile. They obviously haven't done enough thinking about their deck. They really need to hone in on whatever they want their strategy to be. But a 100 card deck makes a lot of sense in Rodan because combined Firepower and Knott's Flask mill you so fast. Every Knott's Flask is going to mill 3 per turn if you choose to use that ability to try and get more boost counters. Every Firepower is going to mill 4, really mill 5, because you also have to make the check for the Firepower. So if you go on a Firepower chain, you're just churning through like 20 cards in your deck in a single turn. in a single attack, really, not just a single turn. So you do have to play, and you're constantly removing cards with Rodan. So all of those factors at play here means that a 100 card deck is very, very feasible. And it's going to be really cool when we draw this strategic maneuver. I have big aspirations for this action. Okay, enough about the assets and actions. Let's jump into the attack package. We've got 28 attacks, which, doing the math, means that we have a 28% attack ratio. And 22 of the 28 attacks are 3 difficulty attacks. Let's talk about my 4 difficulty ones first, though, and then I'll move up to the 3 difficulties. So this 4 difficulty sees the opportunity. We're seeing a lot of Attack on Titan cards here. This says I get to look at the top 4 cards of my deck, and I get to pull a 3 difficulty attack into my hand if I reveal one. Now I've got 22 3 difficulty attacks, and if I look at the top 4, it's got a pretty good hit rate. It'll probably be identical to Stun Grenade. Like, sometimes I'll whiff and not find one, but I imagine that 50% of the time I'll be finding a 3 difficulty attack to add to my hand. A lot of these 3 diffs do not draw, and so card draw is very, very important here. And that's why we're also playing Relentless Onslaught, as we are drawing an attack into our hand, but even better, it's coming from our card pool. So we get to pick something up into our hand from our card pool if we have 3 or more attacks. So we want to play this third that will be on a 6, but we're not committing resources for most of these attacks, so that really shouldn't be a big deal that we're playing it on a 6, and then we pick up a 3 difficulty attack into our hand. My other 3 diffs that are drawing is Blue Flame Surge. Rodan makes a really, really good poke deck because we can add things like Rifle Arm and Practical Studies as speed to our first attack. We can add 4 speed with like Rodan to our first attack, and then it puts our rival into this bind of like, they really don't want to have to commit out to block this like puny 3 difficulty attack, but the speed is so high that it would cost that if they wanted to block. And so you can kind of play a very solid poke game plan, generating momentum. Blue Flame Surge, we can then add that momentum back to our hand. The magical Christmas Land scenario here is to go Blue Flame Surge, add a Relentless Onslaught to your hand, play Relentless Onslaught, add Blue Flame Surge to your hand, add another momentum to your hand from Blue Flame Surge, play that, and go from there. So those 2 working in tandem would be really cool. And then my last attack that draws is Rivet Stab. If its attack's damage is 5 or more, we get to draw a card. Well, with Combined Firepower and Flask, this should be pretty easy to get this to 5, as long as our rival isn't playing some serious damage reduction. And that is a weakness that I'm thinking about for this deck is, am I really going to be able to kill Reiner, who's like a 70 health character in reality? Recovery Girl and these other kind of damage reduction, life gain decks. I think there's a good chance with Firepower and Flask, but that is something to think about. So if we get this to 5, we do get to draw. We get to Rodan, look at the top 2 or look at the top 4 cards of our deck, and then we're getting to adjust the order and specifically draw the attack. So I've got, let's see, that's 4, 8, 12, 14. Half of my cards, half of my attacks are drawing in some form or fashion. So that's very, very important because we're going to need to play a lot of these tiny attacks for them to add up to lethal. Let's go through the other attacks. Maintain Distance, just this card is so powerful for a 3 difficulty attack. 3 high 4, during this attack, your rival's enhances now have the additional cost of commit 1 foundation. So if your rival wants to interact with this attack at all, they're going to have to stun 1 on every single enhance. I have not seen Maintain Distance actually in play, but I imagine that this would be a very solid game-winning card. A very good kill condition to have in the deck. Then we've got First Official Kill. It's just a 3 high 3 with the Deadlock Blitz of getting a momentum. That typically shouldn't be enough, but it's the only momentum out here. Other than Blue Flame Surge, just adding a momentum to our hand, this is going to be the only momentum out. We do have Hacker Extraordinaire here to draw a card and flip a rival's asset. In this meta, it's going to be very, very important to flip your rival's vertical maneuvering equipment. Almost everybody's going to be running that asset. Asset hate has been getting more and more important over the last couple of sets. Right now, it's going to be at an all-time high. Hacker Extraordinaire, amazing card for Rodan. But let's get back into the attack. So we got to have a momentum out. It's another kind of finishing 3 diff. Falling Crush, it's just a 1 low block, 3 low 3 that sometimes will make 3 low 5 if we remove a foundation. Wind Barrier, 3 mid 5, right? If the speed is 5 or greater, which it almost always will be with Rodan, then it's like a 3 mid 5 on face. Also, it gets this really cool thing of if it's in the card pool, the rival's attacks get -2 speed, allowing us to block even better. And then our last attack, which I think is a very cool one, is Binding Cloth Precision. Okay, almost everything in here is a weapon. So that combo weapon is actually online a pretty good chunk of the time. Look at the top card of your deck. You may discard it. That's not a big deal, though. We're playing it for the bottom enhance. It says if it's the 3rd card in your card pool, it gets 2/2. If it's the 5th card in your card pool, it gets 3/3. Well, with combined firepower, we can make this the 5th card in our card pool very easily. Very, very easily, right? We play an attack, we use a firepower, that's 2 cards in our card pool. We play another attack, we use a firepower, that's 2 more cards in our card pool. Now this is going to be the 5th card in the card pool, and we're only playing it on a 5. So, we don't have to play this on a 7 to have it be the 5th, since combined firepower is ignoring progressive and adding damage here. This is going to actually be a 5 low 6 pretty consistently on a 3 def. That's very, very solid stats. Now we add on Rodan speed, we add on firepower's damage, flasks damage. You can see how this could become like a 12/12 pretty quickly. So yeah, the firepower too, it's every time you get a non-foundation, right, you're getting a damage. So we have a 45% non-foundation ratio. That means that more often than not, we're going to be getting at least 2 damage on every single firepower. Knott's Flask is saying every time you get a non-attack, well, we're running a sub 30% attack ratio. So Flask and Firepower should be online, both of their abilities, more often than not. Okay, I don't think Flask and Firepower are quite enough damage though. So where are we getting even more damage from our foundation base? Well, first off, we got Connie's Foundation Sword Skills. Now, this probably should just be copies 3 and 4 of Prone to Dry Eyes, but I want to try out the new thing before I cut it from the list. I don't want to just not try it. So it says, while it's ready, all of your 3 diffs get +1 damage, and you get this cool Deadlock enhance of adding 1 from your card pool back to your hand. So that's its big thing that it has on a card like Prone to Dry Eyes, is getting that Deadlock. But Prone to Dry Eyes, we get to discard a card, get a damage. The nice thing about Prone to Dry Eyes and Rodan is that we can selectively discard from our hand something with a high block modifier, and then we can use Rodan to remove that for plus or minus speed. If we're sitting on like a 1 block modifier on top of our discard, we could discard something with like a 3 block modifier, like Mikasa defeats the female Titan, for example, and then we're getting more speed that way. So also that's just going to add up as we play this like chain of 3 difficulty attacks. Prone to Dry Eyes adds up. So I think this should be a 4 and this should be taken out of the deck. But like I said, let's go ahead and try the new thing. Supersonic Flight. Hey, we're giving 3 damage. +2, +3, and we get to draw. Galactic Monster. We can play it from our Remove from Game pile as a form. That's primarily why it's here. But you can commit to get 2 damage, sometimes 4 damage. But it's really here because we can remove it with Rodan, or we can remove it with Incubating, and then we can play it as a form and basically +1 to your hand size, get a little bit extra in your stage damage there. But the big one is Pressured by All for 1. Again, almost all of these are weapons. So destroy 2 foundations, your ranged or weapon attack gets +3 damage. Having this out on a lethal turn will be very, very key. And my last damage here is Internet Sensation. Since these are 3 difficulty attacks, chances are we're not going to be having to commit foundations to pass checks, which means Internet can give all of them +1 damage. So you can see how the damage here really, really adds up. If I just have 2 pieces of damage in stage, maybe 1 flask, and then a couple firepowers in discard, even though these are tiny attacks, my rival is going to have to be very, very careful not to die. Okay, let's talk about the rest of the foundation base. Let's talk about the defense first. I've got Incubating for extra speed. Also, if we have like a 1 block modifier on top of our discard pile, we can remove that for -1 speed, and then maybe the card beneath that card has a better block modifier that we can then remove for even more speed. So this is also another reason we have to be 100 cards. We've got Flask, Firepower, Incubating, Rodan. We are removing and milling ourselves so quickly, and we're a control character. So, we don't want to lose to milling ourselves out here. Spooky very, very solid resets since we're taking their speed down so far. Battle for Dominance, basically -1 speed to all our future rivals' attacks after we block once and we get to draw. It's a nice 2 low block. Decoy Duplicate. Right now, I'm kind of worried about like Smiling Titan came to mind. Okay, we have to have a way to deal with Smiling Titan and these huge attack on Titan attacks. I don't want to just get squished, right? So Decoy Duplicate, since we do run a pretty good poke game plan, we should have the momentum and we can just discard an attack from our rival's card pool. But that's why we also have Cape of No Return here and the Barrier Shields. I think 4xing Barrier Shield is just a must right now. I really, really want to see this card on turn 2 and be able to just get a free block on one of Smiling Titan's attacks. And then maybe between the speed reduction of Rodan and maybe a couple other pieces in stage, I can get another honest block. And then they probably can't pass a third attack. And then I'll just get stronger and stronger defense as the turn goes on. That's the idea. So we got a 4x Barrier Shield. Rifle Arm, +3 or -3 speed on our first attack. If we're scared, we'll keep it for defense. If we're not too scared, we'll use it on offense to go into this poke game plan. And that is pretty much the defense. Proud Scion kind of commits something down. Well, I guess that's on after your rival start phase. Yeah, you can commit something that gives a speed bonus or a penalty, and it has a deadlock response, and it's a 4 block mod. Big fan of Proud Scion. Let's see the other things. Exhausted Exclamation. I'm not comfortable with how much my attack package is drawing here. I think we need a little bit of extra draw. I also think it's very important with Rodan when we're getting to reorder the top of our deck that we can put the attack on top and draw the attack. So a lot of these, right, Relentless Onslaught, we're not drawing from the top of our deck. We're drawing from our card pool. Seize the Opportunity. I don't want to use Rodan before Seize the Opportunity because after seizing the opportunity, it says you put the 4 on the bottom of your deck in a random order. So if you use Rodan to look at the top 4 and then you're like, okay, good, there's a 3 difficulty attack there. I'll use Seizing the Opportunity. Well, I guess it's a blitz anyway. Okay, so I got confused on timing here. In my head, I was going through enhances, right? Okay, I don't want to use the Rodan enhance before the Seizing the Opportunity enhance because I don't want to give away my information. But it's a blitz, so even if I wanted to, you can't even make that mistake. All right, there you go. Thank you, UVS Games, for holding our hands a little bit. Okay, now I'm completely thrown off. Where was I? Okay, Exhausted Exclamation. Yeah, Blue Flame Surge is drawing from our momentum. Relentless Onslaught is drawing from our card pool. Rivet Stab is really the only attack here that draws from the top of our deck. So we need to be able to draw from the top of our deck to really enhance Rodan's bottom enhance. And so that's why I've got 4x Exhausted Exclamation. I also don't really care about committing a resource when all of our attacks are 3 diffs. It's not going to be very hard to pass them all. I'm not worried about committing something to get 1 extra hand size. Hacker Extraordinaire is also draw in our foundations. We can turn our momentum into cards. We can also, when we take damage, we can get that extra momentum. That extra momentum we can then draw with like Blue Flame Surge, or we can dump into a first official kill. Let's see. Mikasa defeats the female Titan. I love this combined with combined firepower. So this is also throw hate. It's very, very important for Rodan to have throw hate. We have quite a bit of throw hate in here. So we got the 2 Mikasas defeats the female Titan. When we block something, it now deals no damage. We can always block out of our discard with a combined firepower that then ignores progressive difficulty. How cool is that? We have Cape of No Return to deal with throws, and then Blue Flame Surge. Throws is going to be a keyword ability, and so it's going to deal no damage. So we have a good bit of hard resets or reboots for the Smilings of the world. We have a good bit of throw hates for like your Byakos or whoever else is running big throws, Ochako 4s of the world. I feel like we have a really good balance here of defense and of offense. And so these 3 diff attacks are going to be carrying a lot of stats. My worry here is, like I said, going against a damage reduction deck, or I'm not sure how consistent I can find the lethal only having 28% attacks and having the attacks be kind of small stats. So those are my 2 worries with the deck, but I'm not sure how true those are. I think I could probably get around both of those. And like I said, I think I have enough damage pieces here to where this is pretty serious. In terms of deadlock, we've got Proud Scion, we've got sword skills, we've got first official kill, we have practical studies, we have internet sensation. I think there's enough deadlock threats here to make them think twice before they build in. Practical studies says, deadlock, 3-speed, seal, rival asset, or foundation. Very, very good. Are there any foundations that I missed talking about here? I mean, our 0 diffs, but do we really need to talk about these? It's another way to draw off the top of our deck, beyond exhausted exclamation. So that's nice. So yeah, this is the deck. If I come down here to the stats, you'll see that we're perfectly even on block zone spreads, or perfectly symmetrical, which makes me happy. It makes me happy to be right at 100. Let's just draw some first hands and see what we get. All right, our best opener by far in the deck, by the way, is Seize the Opportunity, because it's going to allow us to draw. And if we whiff, then we know that we shouldn't be going in that turn. What I'd really like to see, that is the downside, before I start drawing some hands and just talking through how I would play them. The downside of the 3 difficulty tribal is that we don't have a lot of string starters, right? Typically in your deck, 5 difficulty attacks make up your string starters, and they'll have some sort of ability. Like Back Alley Haymaker back in the day was a great starter, because you could either build or you could draw. It would stun. You're just getting all sorts of information, and you're playing it on a 5 at the best time to play it on a 5. So here, like, Seize the Opportunity is probably our best starter, but I can only run 2 of it, because if I took this up, well, it's 3 difficulty or less, right? And so I need a lot of 3 difficulty attacks to be able to consistently get this ability off. So if I took this to 4 and had this to 4, and then I only had 20, I feel more comfortable at 22 3 difficulties that this effect is going to be online most of the time, much more so than just having 20 attacks out of a 100 card deck. So that's just me there, and I'd rather have Relentless Onslaught. Drawing from your card pool is more assured, and it's going to help you ignore progressive, and it's just a nice 1 low block. Yeah, so that's our best string starter. Other than that, like, probably Rivet Stab would be our starter here. That's what I'm talking about. We don't have a lot of solid starters, because I don't really want to remove a ready foundation, right? This is powerful. This is kind of like your finisher. Maintain Distance is going to have to combo off of something. This has to be played like 3rd. Wind Barrier and Blue Flame Surge, I would like the option of potentially keeping these for defense. So I don't want to just play my attack that has a defensive ability as my opener. Binding Cloth Precision, of course, doesn't want to be an opener. So that is a downside of the attack package, but that's just what's going to happen when you're 3 diff tribal. That is just what's going to happen. So I can only run 2 of this, I feel like, unless I took this to a 2 and took this to a 4, but it is the best starter. So when I draw random hands here on UVS Ultra, I'm looking for, oh, hold on guys, I'm getting a call. Let me, okay. All right, I sent that over to voicemail. All right, so when I'm drawing hands, I'm either looking for builds or how would I attack, right? I'm just looking for how consistent is my turn 1 build going to be? How consistent am I on turn 5 going to be drawing my lethal string? So let's look here. Like, this would be a pretty good string right here. I think we would start off probably Falling Crush, and then we would go into Maintain Distance, and then we could play Relentless Onslaught, pick up our Maintain Distance, then we could play First Official Kill, and then we could play Maintain Distance again. That seems like a very, very strong attacking hand here. So let's just draw a couple more times. Let's also make sure that our builds are okay. So I'll start talking about just like what I would do here, and then we'll talk about builds. So like in this hand, I'd probably go Rivet Stab into some combined firepowers, into Binding Cloth Precision, First Official Kill. Yeah, that's not too bad of a hand. This obviously isn't an attacking hand. And this one, I'd play Seize the Opportunity, see what we draw. And, if we hit, we hit. If we don't, then we probably play some defense. Okay, here we got 3. We would probably go Rivet Stab, Maintain Distance, First Official Kill. That's kind of like a standard line we're seeing here. Rivet Stab, Maintain Distance, Maintain Distance. So you can see, like, it's kind of awkward to be playing Rivet Stab as your opener, but it makes sense. It draws a card, right? if we get the damage to 5. So this one would be a solid one. Rivet Stab, Rivet Stab, maintain distance, Relentless Onslaught, Rivet Stab, maintain distance. If there's an attack here that I'm playing twice with Relentless Onslaught, it's definitely going to be maintain distance. Although I guess that depends a little bit on what we draw off the first Rivet Stab. We could always adjust. Oh, I passed a good one. All right, Blue Flame Surge, pick up something, 2 potential draws. Falling Crush, then into a maintain distance, into a Binding Cloth. Let's keep going here. This one looks promising. Yeah, I mean, Rivet Stab, maintain, Relentless. I feel like we've drawn that hand so often, which is good, right? We want to be seeing consistency and like, okay, I like that, right? Like here, I really, really like this one. Blue Flame Surge into maintain distance, Relentless Onslaught, pick up something, play something, then do the other Relentless Onslaught, pick up something with the Surge. There's a, you can see that this hand has 4 attacks, but because of the 2 Onslaughts, that's really 6 attacks. And because of Blue Flame Surge, that's probably 7 attacks. 7 attacks when we're adding so much stats is Rodan. Very, very good. Yeah, so now let's look at builds. How would these hands feel building? Knott's Flask, by the way, I consider like a spam foundation. So when we look at this, right, I like to have 50% spam foundations in my ratio. So this is 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. I probably should be playing high-end Nomu, but I'm not because I didn't want any more mid blocks. But okay, so now I started talking and forgot what number I said. 4, 8, 12, okay, 24. So 24 times 2, 48. So we're a little bit under 50% right now on foundations, but if we included the flask in the count, then it would really be like 28 of 59. So that's pretty close to about 50%. So let's just draw some hands and see what we get. So this one, we would have 3 foundations. That's all right, but I want to see more than 4 and 5 foundation builds, right? This one would be pretty solid. Hacker, Exhausted, Practical, Botons. We're guaranteed to pass all 4. Oh, I forgot over here. The funny thing is with this 3-diff tribal deck is like on UVS Ultra, your cards are just everywhere. So because it sorts it by difficulty. So we'd go Cape into Hacker, into, I guess it would depend if we're going second, right? If I'm going second, I'm building Exhausted, Practical, Botons, and I would be very comfortable just holding Barrier Shield and a Precisions because Precision is a mid block. So I know I'm going to be able to block whatever attack they throw out with the Barrier Shield plus Breaker 2. Their turn's probably over. If I need another block, I have Exhausted Exclamation to draw, and I have Botan's Coaching, and I have Cape of No Return. Like, holy cow, this is the dream hand going second. Yeah, I'll go on a 3, on a 3, on a 4, on a 4, on a 4. Chances are you'll pass 2 out of 3 of those 4s. That's how I play it, at least. Maybe you guys play it differently, but that's what I would do. If I was going first, I would just go Cape, Exhausted, Practical, Botons, call it a day, I think. Okay, over here, this one wouldn't be too great because you just go Supersonic, Rifle, Botons. Although if you're going second, you can build both Supersonics. Yeah, solid hand. 4 there. 3 with a Cape, not too bad. Yeah, this one, we got 2 3-diffs. That is kind of like another one of the things I'm worried about. Holy cow, we're killing our rival here. All right, solid build. 3, 3, 3 on a 5. Hopefully you check a 5 on that last one. Okay, good build hand. 2, 3, 3, 3, and then on a 5. See if you pass the last one. Okay, so now we're getting some really good. These are some very, very good opening builds. I'll tell you what, we were going in a couple first hands there where I was seeing that I'm running 10 3 difficulty foundations and 3 Cape of No Return. So really, when you think about it, that's like 13 3 difficulty foundations. That is a pretty high number. And I wanted to make sure that that's not going to ruin our turn 1 consistency. So I should probably go and play some hands out in UVS Ultra, but I think just drawing those hands and talking through the different lines, you guys got the point. Just on all of those attacks, add combined firepowers, right? Add combined firepowers and add flasks. So anyway, I'm pretty excited to play this deck. I think I'm going to play it for team testing this next week. I'm pretty proud of it. We got a surprising number of synergies going on here between the assets, actions, the attack lineup, and the foundations. Everything's kind of speaking to each other. I think we have very, very few weaknesses. We can probably find a way to kill most characters in the game. So I'd be curious to see what it's like going against Mikasa and Reiner. Those are the two characters that I kind of feel like you have to, Mikasa, Reiner, and Smiling, right? Because when you go to a major event, everybody's going to be playing the characters, the strong characters that were made recently. And so those characters this time around are Mikasa and Reiner, in my opinion. And then I think you have Ymir, Bertolt, Levi, Smiling as the next of the best. And I think of those, like, a lot of people will be piling into Smiling because he's pretty simple to play, and he just squishes his rival. Sorry, I've got my, there we go. It was a little, I messed up my computer setup here a little bit. That's all right. Yeah, so I want to make sure when I'm building a deck, what's my Reiner matchup like? What's my Mikasa matchup like? What's my Smiling matchup like? Do I have answers? Even if it's a bad matchup, do I conceivably have answers where I could overcome those? So when you're making lists, it has to be fun, unique, and it has to be competitive. So those are the two things I'm looking for, right? I don't want just like, a list is not going to win, even if it's competitive, if it looks like it was thrown together in 5 minutes. I want lists that are really, really unique, where I have to search in the list and then, I realize like the cool interactions that you're going for. By the way, this really helps me. You're not going to get bonus points for the contest, but it really helps me. In the description, you can type up whatever you can type here and share thoughts with me. And then you can save it and put a comment, or you can post a comment. So these things really help me. Like if there's a niche interaction that you're worried I won't see in your deck, I spend like 5 to 10 minutes looking at the deck. But if you're worried Ryan or I is going to miss something when we're judging your deck, go ahead and give us a couple sentences as to what those cool interactions are, and we'll definitely read them. And then you'll know that we didn't miss anything when we're judging your deck. So that's going to do it here for me, guys. As for future content coming for the channel, I've got my top 30 characters coming this weekend. Tonight, I'm going to be doing Orange Card, Blue Card with Sam Tate on Ace Maneuvers. Next weekend is the Webcam Circuit Major 2. You can sign up for it using the link in the description of this video. I think we're at like 50 signups right now. So we still have like 14 spots. So that's next Saturday, September 7th. Also, this contest ends on September 7th. I'm going to have some spotlight deck profiles coming out. I'm planning to do a video just talking about the state of the game, where we're at, how I feel like Universes is doing as a card game. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for my future content. So, all right, guys, you have 1 week to get in on this competition. Like I said, I think I'm at like 9 entries right now. I suspect I'll be at like 20 or 30 entries when it's all said and done. But if you haven't started making your deck yet, you still have time. By the way, man, I really just should say goodbye there. But if I was doing a 4-check tribal, this is my spotlight deck. I'm going to do a deck profile on this. So I didn't want to talk about it right now. But this is what I'll be running in just a couple days for my local qualifier. It's going to be Spotlight, and I'm running 4-check Reiner, all kind of built around this knockdown blow, female Titan attacks interaction of going and being able to pick it up. But I'll do a deck profile on that probably next week. Hopefully by the time I make the deck profile, I can say, this is my winning Spotlight list, and it can have some results behind it. Hopefully I don't go like 0-3. If I go 0-3, I promise you I will not make a deck profile about this, and this will be the last time you see this list. Probably can't even see anything with how zoomed out I am. All right, there we go. It's just a heavy damage reduction on our foundation lineup. 4-check tribal, getting to play female Titan and knockdown blow, and of course armor Titan is awesome in Reiner. Okay, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'll see you next time.